Another live look tonight at Fiserv Forum. That was the site of tonight's Republican presidential debate. That debate represented a big opportunity for candidates hoping to make an impression on voters.
And we're joined now by our panelists, Republican strategist Brandon Scholz and UW-Madison journalism professor Mike Wagner. Guys, thanks for being here. You've been here all day with us. We really appreciate your patience. Always great to have you here. We'll talk more about the decision for Donald Trump not to attend. But first, as we look at those who were there, did any have a particularly strong showing? Mike, let's start with you.
I think there were strong showings from kind of three wings of the party. You have the kind of centrist deal makers, and I think Nikki Haley did quite well as far as that group went. I think former Vice President Pence was stronger than he typically is in debates, representing more of the cultural conservative wing of the party. And then you have this newcomer, Vivek Ramaswamy, who had a strong first hour and then faced attacks from Pence, from Christie, from others. And so I think, you know, he also doesn't really have a lane because he's very supportive of Trump, who is still running for president. And so those people are probably the ones that we'll be talking about the most in the coming days. But we'll also talk about, I think, how Ron DeSantis stopped the bleeding of the media narrative of what's happened to him. He held his own tonight.
Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same path. I think the three that performed above expectations was DeSantis. Started off really well, and held his own while everybody kind of nipped around everybody's heels and kind of got kind of snotty. I thought Nikki Haley did a really great job. She was probably the best Republican, made the best case for Republicans on how to figure out where to get to on abortion, and that's going to be a problem. And I thought Tim Scott probably surprised people because most people didn't know him. He came across very reasonable, very thoughtful. And I think those three kind of set the pace for where the rest of the Republican primary has to go. Politely said, I mean, Chris Christie is there to have a fist fight that work. Rasha Shami was there for, you know, to audition for vice president, and, you know, the rest of it is the rest of it. So, but for Republicans, it's not a bad start. They didn't have a fist fight. I know you want to talk about Donald Trump being there or not being there, but this was their time and this was their debate. And I don't think it was an undercard like Priebus and some of the others were trying to peddle.
All right, so let's talk about Donald Trump now. So he is the leading candidate in the Republican field, decided to skip this debate altogether, instead sitting down with a taped interview with Tucker Carlson. And now that the debate is over, what do you make of that decision? Was it a good one? I'll start with you, Brandon.
Well, I think Trump didn't need to be here just because, as others have said, he's so well known. He doesn't have to introduce himself to voters. You can get away with that once, maybe twice. But the numbers that they're talking about, this big gap in the Republican primary, it's going to tighten, and it's going to tighten well. And so Trump got his get out of jail card, no pun intended, free tonight. But that's going to change as this campaign moves on. You got three solid candidates. You got some more that are going to be there. They're all going to talk, and no matter what happens in Trump's legal problems, this campaign goes on and on. So Trump's got several things to deal with. Maybe tonight it was okay to not be there. I don't think they can pull that card again.
I think that's right. I think he probably gets a free pass on that today, but he's opening himself up to the narrative of he can't handle multiple problems at once, which is something the presidents have to do. He's opening himself up to the narrative that he's no longer in it for the fight, isn't willing to hear those kinds of things. But it's probably better for the candidates on the stage tonight to not have someone who generally takes all the oxygen and instead let them introduce themselves to voters.
So when we wake up tomorrow, in the olden days, we'd wake up and read the newspaper the next day. What's everybody talking about? What's the big headline that you take from today, Mike?
It's a long way until November, and there will be lots of changes. Most primaries are really volatile, and here we have one where a formerly vanquished president is running again for president, and so that, as Brandon was saying, it's going to tighten, it's going to get strange. There are lots of things that are going to happen over the next 14 months.
Brandon?
14 months is the big word, okay? And you can't say it often enough because everybody wants this solved tomorrow. You all want to run out to vote tomorrow about the debate tonight. It just doesn't work that way. This is going to take time. They've got positions to lay out. If you really look at how much time was spent on issues in the debate, there really wasn't all that much. And so, you've got that. Donald Trump has got to go out and talk about what he wants to do. This can't be a campaign on his part about, it was stolen from me last time. So you have all these dynamics that have to change on the Trump mantra. You have all these candidates that are coming on board. And I think, as we've also talked about, they really didn't lay a glove on Joe Biden until the very end when they poked at him for a few things. So there's a lot more to come.
Always interesting. Guys, I really appreciate you being here all day with us.
Great fun.
It was a lot of hours, and we really appreciate
We'll
it.
see you a lot more in the next 14 months.
Yeah, 14 months, Brandon. Long way to go.